All right, what is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a good day so far. And yeah, let's just get right into this. Not too bad, 20. I feel like I am getting a little faster because I used to average 19, and that's the second time I've gotten 20 now, so that's kind of nice. Let's try to keep it up. Okay, 19 again. Still not bad. Not bad. Let's get into a puzzle rush. That's a new 5th place record. Okay, I see how I missed that one. Okay, I see that one now. Should have considered more options on that one, I suppose. And for this final one, okay, cool. Alright, hopefully we learned something from that. Let's see here. Get on some 5-5 games. Change that? Yeah, we did. Okay, cool. E4, E5. Can we get a knight F3? Can we get a knight C6? Followed by D4. Unfortunately, this isn't the same mating pattern that we've come to know and love. Similar, just not there. Oh, motherfuck. Shit. And I did that a turn ago, too, and they still missed it, and I missed it. Everybody missed it. Crap. Damn. It's not gonna work at all. Ooh. Why does it make me sweat so bad? Okay, yeah, I don't know what you're trying to threaten with that. See, I think you're out of ideas. Yeah, because you're not threatening checkmate with that. You're not... What are you doing with that, you know? Like, that's not much. There's not a lot of substance there. And that's made on the board. Congratulations, you did it. Whatever. It's quite unfortunate, honestly. Damn. That's just nuts. And the craziest thing about that, too, is I did realize that after my knight moved, I wasn't able to castle anymore. And that was the whole reason why I pushed this pawn on my next turn. So yeah, I can definitely see where that was the real blunder there. Just castling queenside now would have been better. Wish I would have, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know, I guess... Dang, I should have done that. Yeah. Let's see it. Yeah. Would have gotten the rooks off the board. That would have been a little bit better at least. But they're still up a bishop. I have 2 pawns. 2 extra pawns. Yep. See if we can do better on the next one. We lost 10 points for that because of his lower rating. So that was unfortunate. We're probably going to take a quick pit stop, and then when we get back, we will be starting another game. And hopefully doing a lot better. So, Yeah, if anybody needs to grab a snack, use the restroom, whatever you gotta do, now's the time to do it. Debating if I want another coffee or not. Not sure. spaghetti. I had to. What can I say? Alright, let's see here. Alright, go on, make some room, make some room. Okay. Let's see. Let's see how this is going.
Berlin this time?
Berlin or Petrov? I think those two most solid of openings.
Oh. Hang on a second, they're racing through. This is the moment of truth. Oh, no night absent.
What are you doing? That's great news. Seen so many Berlins. Give us something else. Please. For the love of God, no more Berlins.
I'm surprised though, Wesley. I would have thought he's well, really happy with the draw as black, but instead he chooses a more fighting approach. Interesting.
Maybe even hinting at a marshal.
Yeah. Oh, the marshal though, that's the new Berlin. It's the Berlin of the 2020s. The marshal used to be a gambit, used to be a very attacking line, but these days known for its drawish tendencies.
There's not many gambits. I was thinking about this the other day. There's literally not many gambits left that you can actually play. The only two I could sort of think of is the Queen's Gambit or the Marshall Gambit that are sound, that top players play. There's not really any other gambits that the top players play regularly, is there?
Elephant Gambit?
Evans Gambit?
That's another one I played against you at the British
played the
Championships.
King's Gambit.
Yeah, but no one plays the Evans, do they?
Dodgy. What's happened to the Evans? Okay, anyway, that's a discussion for after the show.
I mean, Achimata, the famous YouTuber, loves it, plays it, but I don't think I've seen anyone, over 2600 play it for years, unfortunately.
Jan Nepomniachtchi won a very important game at the World Rapid Team Championship with the King's Gambit.
We won't mention that one.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It was against our team, and we were so close to doing something and winning.
Anyway, this is no gambit.
But you're right, David. Here, there are no pawn sacrifices, no gambit. It is a slow strategic fight. H3 on the board, so taking away the 3 for square. How are we expecting this one to develop?
Yeah, it's all about what setup Wesley So chooses here. It's not the Marshall Gambit because Black's D-pawn didn't break open the center in one go. Often that comes at the cost of a pawn, but opening the position when Black's pieces are ready makes a lot of sense. Instead, this will take a slower turn. Firouzja, as well, he's not going for a main line either. He's trying to avoid any opening debate where preparation might play a role. He's just saying, okay, I'm going to play really slowly. The central tension will happen eventually. Maybe Black will break first, White will break first in the center, but first it's a bit of maneuvering who can put their pieces on good squares. And this has been made topical by players like Jordan van Forest and Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano. They've all been playing like this recently as White. And it's just a very slow start to this game.
And I'm still thinking about the gambits, and I wonder if it's a generational thing. When the computers were not as strong, and in the previous generation it was more easy for players to be aggressive, play for the initiated, sacrifice, sort of that romantic chess era. But now with each of these strong players being so good at defensive resources, that gambits have kind of just become a little more redundant now.
They're very rare at top level. I mean, even like you say 20 years ago you had the Moscow Gambit, which is still played, but that was really, Anand won a very famous game, I think, in the World Championships, maybe to help him become world champion, possibly in the Moscow Gambit. But yeah, there's not as many gambits around. They're dying. Poor things. It's really sad. They're getting extinct. We need to start some welfare group for them. Bring back the gambits at 2700 level. Yeah, I reckon we need more proper gambits. And I don't mean the Queen's Gambit. It's not even a proper gambit.
Oh, no, that's
it doesn't really count. Like, I mean proper dodgy gambits. Oh dear, sad day.
They do work at top level. Abdou Satorov wiped Aronian off the board in 20 moves with a really dodgy gambit with White. Just Yeah, just in the last Champions Chess Tour event.
I think the preparation you can do. I mean, I think there's still scope, and some players, like you say, Nordy Beck that did this. Jordan Van Forest is a great one as well. It's finding really old ideas that people have forgotten, and sort of reanalyzing them with the latest computers, which you have to do. And even if they're not 100% sound, bringing them back to life somehow. And I think there's still possibilities you can do that, but you can only use it once. You know, you can't. That's the problem. In the old days, you could use these gambits like, you know, dozens of times, but if you use it once, your next opponent's going to prepare for it, and you have to throw. You know, you have to not use it again. So that's the problem with these kind of dubious gambits nowadays. You have more manoeuvring chess like this, and this is why positional manoeuvring chess is so important to understand. And the action will happen a lot later, generally in the top matches nowadays. So yeah, I mean, pretty standard position here, I'd say, really. I mean,
Maneuvering chess and checkmates, because if you have to beat Magnus Carlsen, you've got to know your checkmates. Fabi managed to do it, and I believe we've got some updates coming in from the Fabi versus Magnus matchup. We will come back to this. As you said, David, it is a strategic battle. It's going to be a long one. Let's jump over and check out the Fabi game. Wow. I don't know if it's a gambit or not, but it's definitely a crazy position.
Crazy position, and Fabiano is gambling. He's not gambited any pawns yet, but he's chosen a really kind of risky strategy. That's an impressive mug, I've got to say, from Caruana a second ago. I hope we see that again. But yeah, the play has evolved significantly, and I think we need to jump in just to get to grips with what is going on in this position. This is the current position we'll discuss in a moment. We left it around here when Magnus Carlsen just castled, and I'm not sure about Fabiano playing on the queen side. I'm not a huge fan of this approach. I think he should have been playing on the other flank. And after a few trades, we saw Magnus gain a lot of space in the center. And wow, chaos on the board. So I'm going to catch up with the current position after the move f3. I think if Fabiano just needed a draw, or a very safe position, he would have traded off bishops. But he needs to attack. Of course, he's trying to open up the g file for his rook. And Magnus has jumped in. Boom, knight to e4.
Wow, what a move. Oh, great minds, Tanya.
You gotta love 94.
Oh, such a nice move.
Your one piece is hanging, and then you make the other one hanging as well.
Yeah, put yourself in a self-forking yourself. It's, yeah.
But
that's a gambit for you, Simon.
That's a piece gambit. I like it. Much better than a pawn gambit. See, these world champions, they don't do things by half, you know. I don't need to gambit a pawn. Have a piece, you know. I don't think you can take either, though, can you?
Yeah, we should mention you cannot take the knight, of course, because the white queen would fall to the black bishop, and taking the other one would also be catastrophic, at least in terms of the match situation, because after a check, the white king has to step forward, only legal move, and I was going to say, at the very least, you can take this pawn. I think this would force a draw, because the king cannot step forward. There would be a devastating knight fork, a royal fork here, winning the white queen. And if you step back, of course, black can just repeat the moves, and Magnus would progress to the next round. So Fabiano could not accept that gambit. And what does Magnus have up his sleeve? After the pawn steps forward to h4, taking away this infiltration square from the black queen, guarded now by the white rook, Magnus still has this fork on his hands. Does he have to step back now with his bishop?
Queen f6 is possible, maybe, is it? Or as well? I don't know,
Nice, Simon.
That's
maybe.
very nice, Queen of 6.
I don't know if it's any good, but I mean, just trying to put some pressure on them. I love these checkmate ideas, you know.
Is
they're
this a
catching
scholar's
on.
mate?
This is,
Much.
yeah, I think it's something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. But anyhow, we do have to kind of like approach this very complicated position quite systematically. So there's like queen move that David's indicated, bishop retreats. There's also the knight can jump forward and attack the rook. That's another possibility. And then once you've kind of outlined all the moves that you have available, you then got to rank them. That is the way, unfortunately. And then you always start with the one you like the most.
Which one do you like the most, Jivanka?
Well, the rules kind of say that you should introduce a new piece into the attack, so I would be looking at first attacking, playing a queen to f6.
Yeah, let's give Magnus Carlsen that dilemma. 3 very tempting opportunities here. Valuation bar says it's in black's favour. That's not surprising because white is undeveloped, but still very complicated. Could go either way.
Maybe you can just go bishop h5 as well.
Yeah.
And, just try to keep the tension. That seems like a Magnus move, right? You know, you can just keep the tension, keep the pressure in your position. But there's a lot of you can go wrong here, can't you? I mean, very easily with both colours, and it's very messy. This is interesting stuff. Really exciting.
Yeah, it's a critical position. That explains why Magnus is taking his time right now. 3 tempting options, as you pointed out. And Fabi, he's just taken so many big decisions on the board. That king on e1 is probably going to be
Clean
in
plate
the center
club.
of the board for the rest of the game. You don't have safety on the king side. I
Set that
don't
there
know
for
if
a
we'll ever
moment.
see a queen side castling here. Which means it's sort of another all-in kind of a setup by Fabi here. He has to try to again go for an attack, go for Magnus's king to try and get anything. If you let Magnus consolidate, White could be lost in the next couple of moves.
Right, you know, with that king in the center, and if Magnus is able to just introduce more pieces to the attack, I
That
agree
is a
with
cool
you. I
mug.
don't think Fabi's king is long for a while. But on the plus side, I do remember the words of Alexander Grishuk, who found himself in this type of situation. He said, well, a bad opening king, bad middle game king. But, you know, the longer the game drew out, it became a really good in-game king. So Fabi does have long-term possibilities to look forward to, if he can survive.
And he needs to do that. He doesn't only need to survive, he needs to win this game. And we see a decision on the board. Magnus steps back from the fork. I think this is the most human approach. You just want to make sure that your pieces don't remain hanging. The pin is still on. There's pressure on f3. Your idea of knight g3, Simon, your idea of queen f6, always in the air. Bishop h5 just felt like the move you really want to make here.
It's all about timing as well. If White gets a few moves, if White can somehow release the pressure, kick away the black knight from the center, Fabiano is happy. If Magnus gets time to develop his queen side, the other black knight coming out, the black queen coming out, Black's going to have a raging attack, so these next few moves might be where it's decided. Definitely feels like one of those types of positions. No boring maneuvering here, no kind of small strategic finesses. It's just pure brute force. And Fabiano, he needs to find an accurate move here, otherwise I fear for his life in this game.
Yeah, I mean, whose king is weakest? And it certainly looks like White's king, right? I mean, the rook on h1 has to hold on to the pawn. Okay, so he's broken the pin there. With this bishop move, and now Magnus has the decision to make with the knight. White is threatening to take that knight now, so do you dive in? I mean, diving in, very normal reaction to play here in the position. And just seeing, I don't think there's many other options. Maybe you just dive in, right?
He's done it.
Played.
Yeah.
Rook to h3 on the board as well, hitting that knight, and not many squares to go to. You have to either retreat or take this bishop. He does remove the bishop pair, maybe haunted by memories of the previous game, and now for Magnus, what to do next? Is it time to start developing this piece, lots of options?
Develop the knight. Hang on a second, just do it with time. Maybe I can actually develop the queen first and then the knight.
You can hit this rook in the corner. Actually, I was going to say, be careful, because fork, double attack.
Oh.
This could be disastrous, potentially, but okay, he doesn't set up that trap. I'm all about the cheap tricks in this position, but knight to c6 as well. Very sensible move. Might later jump into this nice outpost, might later jump towards the center. To me, it feels like Black's position just really harmonious.
Yeah. And also, I just kind of, there's a pattern that is just like screaming out to me. The king and the queen, they're on the same line. So if you get rid of the knight, the white knight on b5, then the knight can actually jump forward to d4 square. So
Very nice.
a6 is imminent.
Yeah, big threats.
Maybe Black can even start using the f-pawn if you need another lever to try and open up White's position. All these ideas are Black's ideas. I mean, the Black king is actually very safe. It might. I mean, I was thinking the Black king could be a problem in this game with the dark square bishop of White swinging around on that diagonal. But there's never going to be any threats on g7 because you can't really ever move your rook to attack that point. So I can't see any way at all White can create threats against Black's king. But we've just noted a number of ways that Magnus can create threats against White's king, and White's king is very precarious there, right? In just that little small pawn protection in front of it. So definitely a better position for Magnus, but it is messy, and when you need to win, messy is good.
Yeah, I love how you're suggesting pushing the black f-pawn. It's not the Dutch defense, Simon.
Well, I mean, you know, bad habits die. Hard to get rid of, I'm afraid, David. You know, with I'm just want to throw it on the board, open up the rook, regret it, and want to move it backwards a couple moves later.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense here, going for the White King, which has now parked itself on F2. I mean, that's really flimsy cover for the White King right now. Feels like that isn't going to hold up forever. Black Knight's going to start coming in, the Black Queen, Black Rooks potentially as well. Magnus slightly low on the clock. It definitely feels like he's not as confident as he was a bit earlier in the day. Still a very good position for Black. So Fabi just needs to survive, stay in this as long as possible. Long term, all to play for, but short term, Black's favour.
If he gets his rook to G1, I like his last move, so at least he can now start applying a bit of pressure. And if he can get his rook to G1 and his dark square bishop back to B2, well, all of a sudden, because I've played F5 by that point, I'm in a lot of trouble. So it's like...
I don't know, you're quite quick. I do feel that Black has to be super quick here, because if you let White play some happy moves, the bishop will line up on the long diagonal and the rook. So there you go, the rook has come.
I like that, happy moves. I have never thought about it like happy
Yeah,
moves.
because they suggest themselves, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I always call happy moves the ones that suggest themselves, that play themselves. You know, you can almost, you don't even have to calculate. You just, okay, the rook belongs on open line. It wants to go and look at the Black King. And then the next happy move, if White is allowed, is the bishop to retreat itself to B2. So then it's on a long diagonal.
Yeah, I mean, the valuation bar is really, really liking Magnus's position, but I think again in practice this is a bit this is not as easy as the evaluation bar is indicating. I mean, White has his own ideas. As you say, that bishop dropping back, you're already creating a big threat. That rook can come and attack Black's bishop. Black's bishop is a little bit loose in squares. I mean, it's not completely straightforward for Magnus at all.
Totally agree. If I was playing this position, I would think, okay, maybe I'm slightly better as Black, maximum. But, I mean, it's just complicated. I would never dream that Black's advantage is so significant, like the engine points out right now.
But
Here he comes.
I wasn't quite sure about Fabi's last move, retreating the knight. I know it was under attack, but the bishop on A3 is just stuck there and it has no future. I felt that he had to kind of go on the counter-offensive.
With potential tactics of perhaps putting pressure in G7, and right now with the bishop on A3 stuck, the only square I see for that bishop is C1.
C1, right.
And that's not a happy move.
That's a very sad move, isn't it? That rook b8 move. I mean, I'm thinking about great moves in this game, and rook b8 from Magnus is just not something I would have thought about. But it's really just taking the sting out of White's play, because it was all based around White's bishop. And that bishop, as you say, is a very sad piece now because it hasn't got to that diagonal. So really, really nice containing move. And the last move stops White's rook activating. So rather than trying to crush White, Magnus says, I'm not going to let you play any moves, Fabiano. I'm not letting you play any of the moves that you like to play. And White's actually running out of moves, even though the evaluation bar is maybe liking it a bit more now. Can the knight come round? Is that why the evaluation bar is liking White? Maybe White's knight comes into the centre and then comes to harass the bishop via f4 on the next move. I mean, that would be a very sensible continuation. So still a mess.
This last move by Magnus 8-6, does that surprise you a little bit? It felt a bit slow.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Magnus chose it. I mean, it's the type of move that I would play and then regret it for not being dynamic, energetic enough. Of course, as Simon says, it kind of prevents this rook to g5 move, trying to kick this bishop, but yeah, very, very slow. And let's catch up with the current position. After White's knight uses the center, Black knight jumps in as well. Maybe some hints of a check, but yeah, some calculation to be done. The White knight can drop back to f4, hitting this bishop
On the
is...
board, we've got moves, David. Knight f4, bishop g6, and Magnus played knight e5 at breakneck speed, so he was anticipating knight d5.
Yeah, but it's just a pure mess right now. We see, wow, Fabiano lock up the center. This is really committal. He's trying to render this bishop passive. He's going to maybe try and kick it in the next move, try to line up on the g-file. But yeah, now you've given up control over all of the dark squares in the center, and also some threats along the third rank.
Yeah, I mean, you have to calculate something taken. Well, knight takes f3 in some positions now, because that would allow the black queen to come into h4. I don't think it works, but you know, you have to keep an eye on this kind of idea. Certainly.
And Peter doesn't hate it.
No, it's not the worst move on the board. Yeah, but it's just a really weird position. This is not your standard position. It's extremely complex. Let's remember that white must win. Fabi must win with white to take it to the playoffs. And he, in the last game, he managed to get another dynamic position. He did the same actually in defeating young player who I've forgotten, Dennis. He also took a bad position, but a complicated position to win that one. Even again, Valuation Bar doesn't like it, but I think there's a lot of play left here, and this is going to be very, very exciting. Look at Magnus's time. You pointed this out as well. 3.5 minutes. He's also struggling to make sense of this bizarre structure.
There's still like black in this position, and one of the reasons is that knight on e5. After this last move by white, that knight can't be kicked away for a while. Wondering if there's a way for Magnus to get the queen involved in everything that we're seeing. Queen f6 would be a happy move that I would like to make, but that does invite white to jump back with that knight on that central square, hitting that queen, so I don't really think that it actually makes any progress by the end of it.
Yeah, I also was thinking about how to introduce new pieces into the attack, and so I was looking at, unusually for me, moves that give up material. So I was looking at moves like f5, just to see whether the
Funky.
yeah, but the computer doesn't like it. But okay.
He might be preparing it because he falls back with the bishop to 8-7, so gets out of the range of the knight. So f5 is definitely on his radar.
Trying to blow open the file towards the white king makes a lot of sense, and it's not clear what Fabiano's going to do. Okay, he quickly plays the move d3. Black's king gets out of the eye line of the white rook, and this move is definitely being prepared. First, maybe he'll guard against the white knight jumping in, but still very, very complicated. This position, not clear how Fabiano's going to improve either. You'd love to put your rook on the g file, but every time this happens, black queen will swoop in, and just Magnus playing slow, steady, build-up moves. I think he's just trying to speed up now on the clock, and just telling Fabi, okay, I'm going to play this move. I'm kind of declaring that right now. You have to be ready for it. Oh, predictions? Anyone?
Well, I mean, it's a mess, right? I mean, I think it's really hard to predict what will happen here. I mean, black seems to be in a preferable position, but I can't predict. I can't even predict
It's also the clock, no? With 2.5 minutes, really anything can happen despite black having an advantage in this position and everything under control. Active pieces, that's not enough amount of time to feel safe.
And it's the kind of position where the price of an error is pretty high as well. So anything can happen, all three results possible.
And the queen has been introduced into the attack again, also taking care of the e6 weakness. We are going to see f5 and then it all just blows up.
It's blow open soon, 100%. White's rook can now also move to the g file. That's one of the disadvantages at some point. And here we come, f5. It's coming to life here. All pieces are attacking now for pretty much both sides, right?
Yeah.
Even the rook on b3 is super active. It's doing a great job of keeping that knight on f4, forced to defend and connected with that pawn on d3. So it just feels like when Magnus has played f5, all his pieces are ready for this.
All of the black pieces definitely ready. It's just that white bishop which could be improved, I guess. White's rook on h3 is going to slide across, but that needs to be improved urgently. Yeah, I love that message from Twitch there. It is the Wild Wild West now. Magnus has lit the touch paper, and Fabiano is saying, okay, I'm going to meet fire with fire. White's queen slid across. That was threatening checkmate in one, hitting the g7 square, forcing Magnus into retreating. And okay, will that momentum change? Retreating normally isn't a good sign, but okay, maybe he's just going to bring his rook across. Fabiano trebled up with his pieces now.
He's creating some threats here.
Oh, wow.
Magnus, I mean, Magnus played this very quickly, not afraid of rook takes pawn, and rook takes pawn. It nearly, that very scary move, but Magnus is prepared. Knight takes pawn check there, and David, I mean, it's getting even more wild westy now, and I'm thinking Will Smith when I say that.
This is crazy, Simon, the three pieces together. For example, if the black knight takes now, this would be a losing blunder, because suddenly, look at this dormant bishop which was asleep for so long. Suddenly, along this longest possible diagonal, delivers the killer blow. And black would have to lose his queen just to eliminate this bishop. This is totally crazy. Fabiano is thinking about it.
And it's so easy to forget about that bishop. David, until you pointed out bishop to b2 is a checkmate in that position, I didn't even know that it could come into the attack. So you've got to watch out here with the black. Things are changing.
Yeah,
really
things are
quickly.
changing, and we do see Fabiano recapture that pawn in the middle, and still, white still has the threat of rook takes pawn.
And bishop b2 as well at the right moment. You've got to watch out that the rook on f8 is attacking that knight on f4, but once the bishop lands on this diagonal, it can be super dangerous for black king.
And more pieces are going to be thrown towards that 4g7 pawn, you know. If Magnus defends it, then there's going to be the knight coming to h5, and I think bishop b2 is a great move as well.
You've got bishop takes h6 ideas
Yeah.
then as well, and Magnus 1.5 minutes to defend against an all-in Fabiano, and Fabiano is attacking hardcore here, so he's going for a counter-attack, so he's aiming to take the pawn with check if Magnus dives in, and this is trying to at least tie down some of Fabiano's pieces here with that queen.
Can Fabi do the impossible? Can he make a big comeback from being 2-0? He's already won one game. He needs to win this one to force an Armageddon. Meanwhile, big updates coming in on the Ali Reza board. Ali Reza Firouzja on the brink of a win, and this would mean match over. What's going on here? He's got two minor pieces for a rook.
Yeah, it's like two volcanoes erupted at the same time. Firouzja now is threatening a nasty checkmating attack. He just slid his queen across one square, threatening to jump into the g6 square, and I think we have to jump in here. Wesley so in huge trouble, only with 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and just the last couple of moves, this one has really sprung to life here. Wesley, this level material, he decided to take this pawn, maybe living to regret this. This has opened up the beautiful light square bishop towards the king, and maybe this is the one he missed. Bishop takes pawn, and you cannot recapture. Bishop takes knight now would lure the black queen into the center, walking into a family fork, hitting the king, queen, and rook. This would be devastating, of course. Black, in the end, dropping the knight back, but this killer blow, potentially, queen to b1, threatening to slide in. For example, bishop takes bishop now would be devastating. Queen to g6, this pawn is pinned, and this will end in checkmate. Instead, he had to push his pawn forward, and after a trade of bishops on f8, I'm expecting, wow, next move simply, Firouzja is going to come in with his queen.
The knight coming to f5. We know what that knight is capable of once it lands on f5.
A lot of nasty things. Yeah, I mean, I mean, white's pieces are flowing brilliantly here, and the real strength for Ali Reza's game is when he is attacking, he spots these opportunities really well. Like Gary Kasparov, he always reminds me of Gary Kasparov, the energetic play that Gary used to put on his opponents. And here, yeah, the queen coming over and the knight coming in. It looks really strong, and this could be the game that puts Ali Reza through to the next round.
Yeah, and it's actually really bad news for Wesley. Not only does he lose this and get get pushed down to the lower bracket, but he doesn't secure that spot in the Toronto final.
Yeah, let's remind everyone, if Wesley wins this game, he's already through to the season and final. With losing it, he would still have a chance. He needs to finish in top 4 in the Julius Baer Generation Cup to make it to Toronto, but this one will hurt.
It definitely will hurt. And there we can see the white knight landing on the beautiful f5 square. Now the queen and knight are circling around the black king.
And wow, Magnus Carlsen has just blundered in the other game. This one looks like it's over. Firouzja is about to jump in with his queen and deliver a checkmate. I think we have to jump. Magnus has just missed this beautiful move. Look at Fabiano flex there, stretching. He's a piece up. He has an extra knight, and it's all about the dart squares. White's bishop is actually lurking. We'll go through an action replay in a moment, but simply a piece up here for Fabiano.
He's going to win. He's going to win 2 games in a row against the brilliant Magnus Carlsen and take it to Armageddon.
Oh my God.
Incredible.
It felt like that was impossible to do when it was 2-0. You win one, you win the second one, and that rook was on free but couldn't have been taken because of that dark square bishop that we've been pointing out. And maybe we'll have a look at it at another time, David. But Fabi, he's taking it to an Armageddon.
Yeah, Fabiano, he's doing the business here. He counterattacked that white bishop, finally springing to life. A little question here to answer. White's rook is attacked on h6, or is it? And the white knight on e6 as well, slightly loose. But I think you can defend that. You can kind of solve that in a few ways right now. At the very least, you can take that black bishop with your rook. But okay, Fabiano, can he close this game out now? Under 1 minute.
But you don't want to give the material back, right? If you have an alternative to keep that extra piece, you want to hang on to it. So is there a way that White can maybe sidestep with the king, creating that threat of bishop f6?
It's worked for him before. Why not try it again? I agree with you. Look.
Oh! Is he giving the
Did he
piece
give it
away?
back? No, he's counting on rook takes knight, and then the two rooks will line up on the h line.
Well, but look at the bar, it's changed a lot. I mean, the problem here is that I think the white king is quite exposed, right? So, you know, the black rook on c2 can also do a number of checks and force it to go to a very bad square. So, rook takes knight here might just be playable in this position. That was a crazy move. I mean, sidestepping the king, like you mentioned, Tanya, seemed so sensible. Don't retreat unless you have to. They're both very short time. Here you see that rook checking first of all, forcing the king to a bad square.
Yeah, and don't forget that all the white remaining pawns are dropping. So at the very least, even if black loses his bishop, white's pawns there just lined up in a row, like Skittles there. Just you're gonna wipe them out all in one go. And here we go. It's elimination time. If you're just left with two rooks and a bishop against the two black rooks with no pawns left, won't be many winning chances.
No, that's right. And yeah, that was a big miss of Fabiano. He did so well to get back in the game. He was a piece up, he was attacking, he had a great position, and he just retreated. He just played this passive move at the wrong time there, going backwards rather than forwards.
Massive moment, and maybe just if you, David, you can show us what exactly was the way forward for Fabi there.
Yeah, I think we just have to jump in and just a quick slow motion replay of what happened here. Actually, Magnus Carlsen was doing quite well. He should have given a check. He needed to keep his rook on b2, on b7 to prevent the white bishop using the square. He brought his rook across, missing this beautiful blow from Fabiano, allowing the white bishop now to deliver a killer blow. But it was just a few turns later, Fabiano still had the same idea. He did not need to move this rook. As you pointed out, Tanya, just moving the king would have won the game, because this would have been a devastating checkmate. He would have kept his knight on the board, kept a winning attack. Instead, retreating that rook did allow the knight to be eliminated. And let's catch up with the current position. All of white's pawns are gone. This one should now be a draw. Black has 3 pawns for the bishop, level material. And as long as black's king doesn't get checkmated, this is going to be a draw.
Still some chances, maybe, if you can coordinate the white rooks and the bishops to to attack the king. I mean, you have to try to create some chances against black's king here. I mean, it's not completely dead as of yet, and the time situation, that's going to be a key factor.
Yeah, it's not easy to play when you only have seconds left, and there we see Magnus given a check. It's been intercepted. Oh,
look at this. I mean, it's
one
still
pawn has disappeared from the board.
Still seems really, really unclear to me, this that bishop, you know, it's still a bishop.
Meanwhile, there is an update. Firouzja has indeed closed out that game against Wesley, so we left it with a decisive advantage for him, and he was about to deliver checkmate. He had an extra bishop as well, so Wesley resigns and is pushed down to the other bracket.
Could we either see rook and bishop versus rook potentially in this one, if the pawns get removed and a pair of rooks come off, which is a draw, but not an easy draw. And you see here, white is definitely going to push this one on, right? I mean, he's got a bishop for a pawn. It's not clear to me, if I didn't know with the evaluation bar, that this is actually a draw. I wouldn't notice.
Yeah, and actually at the World Cup there was one fascinating endgame of this exact position basically, but without black's pawn, and that should be a draw as well, but harder work with all the rooks on the board. Magnus here, he needs to trade off one set of rooks if he wants to secure safety. With all the rooks on the board, the black king will never be entirely safe. Fabiano can play this one forever. I think we're going to see a 150 move game here. Fabiano has to push this to the very end, to the bitter end, while Magnus tries to defend and trade off rooks.
Yeah, Magnus just sitting and waiting in this position. There's not much else he can do. And Fabiano's got to try and create some chances. I mean, his one idea here is to go bishop d4 and try to win Magnus's last pawn. That would open up the black king to more checks on the rooks, so that seems a very sensible idea.
Yeah. But does Magnus have to be very careful, because the king is not well placed in an ensuing rook and bishop versus rook endgame?
It's always tricky. I mean, rook and bishop versus rook. I mean, Magnus knows how to draw that, but you know, I've seen so many top players lose that ending, but they're not Magnus, so that is the difference, right?
Fabi's best chance in this endgame is to keep all the pieces on the board, not trade out either of the rooks, and to try and win that G-pawn so that you can try and give another checkmate to Magnus Carlsen. But giving one checkmate in a day, I think it's kind of hard to give two checkmates to Magnus here. Magnus continues to play confidently, with both players now under 30 seconds. Is clock going to be a bit of a factor, especially Magnus? He's touching the 15-second mark.
Yeah, I feel like Fabiano has to hustle on the clock here. If Magnus is able to build up time, build up increment, get closer to the 1 minute mark, especially that in-game rook bishop versus rook where he knows the defensive techniques, I think he would hold that in his sleeve. So you need to kind of push him down on the clock as low as possible and then maybe go for that in-game. It's not going to be easy. Got to watch out for the 50 move rule, of course, as well. Magnus, he's found a safe haven for his king. The black rook is going to protect along the 6th rank as well. Fabiano is struggling to make progress here.
And when was the last capture in the game? Let's get an update on that to keep an eye on the 50 move rule. Approaching that, Fabi will have to take a decision to go for that G-pawn because Magnus isn't pushing that pawn anytime soon.
The last capture was move 60, so we are about to reach the 30 move mark. Fabiano needs to either capture a piece or force the black pawn to push in the next 20 moves.
Well, at some point he'll probably have to exchange a pair of rooks off and just try to win rook and bishop versus rook if he can get to it. Even though it's not clear he's going to win that last pawn ever. I mean, there's probably a good chance he will, but how else does he make progress there? He's got the only other piece he can use is really his king here, and he can't really get that anywhere great in the position. It's going to help pressurize Fabi's king.
Magnus ever been forced to defend a rook and king versus rook and bishop?
Probably against David, I would have thought so. I mean, I don't know. It's a good question, actually.
Because I would imagine he's probably more used to being on the other side, right?
That's right.
He's won a few on the other side, if I remember correctly. I think I do recall him defending one, at least. There was also a game between Maxime Vacher de Grave and Magnus Carlsen where Vacher de Grave just didn't even try to beat Magnus, despite the extra bishop in that in-game, because he was confident Magnus would draw it. But either way, Fabiano, he's running out of time. He's got 14 moves now to win that black pawn or to trade off a set of rooks. He has to take his fate into his own hands and do something. Otherwise, his chances will disappear just due to that 50 move rule. He's not making any progress whatsoever here.
David, would you be confident drawing the ending rook and bishop versus rook? And this is what we're thinking might happen if Fabiano decides to swap a pair of rooks off, because he's running out of time. The 50 move rule is encroaching on them, where it'll be automatically decided to draw. But you'd be confident, David?
If it's classical, I'd be pretty confident. 10 seconds on my clock. I don't think I'd be confident in any position, let alone that difficult endgame.
We're almost reaching the 50 move mark.
How
He's
many
at
moves
60, right? So another 5 moves to go?
5 moves.
Oh,
right.
difficult to do stuff here.
7 seconds. He
Get rooks off the
has
board.
to trade.
Oh, so he's trying to swap. He's trying to offer some kind of trade
Rook
here.
A5, rook B5.
Yeah, but
Magnus is clever. He won't exchange here. He'll just keep pieces on the board.
the rook b5 doesn't
Doesn't
work. You
work.
can just take it as well. So, I mean,
I must be moderately careful.
and the black king is in the wrong place. The white king is in the wrong
100.
place as well.
2 more moves to go.
2 more moves. Oh, bishop takes g7.
Bishop takes pawn now.
Yeah, well, you.
No, unfortunately,
No.
there's some rook checks.
Oh, and here we go.
Is it going to be a draw?
He should have taken the rook.
Oh,
He could have
why did he
taken
take
the
Didn't
rook.
realize it. Fabi did not realize it.
Oh, wow.
And it automatically stops. 50 move rule has been reached, and with that, he had the opportunity to keep going with the trade on that last move. And Magnus Carlsen has got to be feeling the relief after that. With 2 big wins at the start, it looked like it was going to be easy, but Fabi strikes back in game 3 and so close in game 4.
Yeah, so close, but in the end, it was just a big mistake from Fabiano Caruana at a critical moment. But wow, what a fight.
What a fight. David, what was the critical moment when things could have turned around?
Oh wow, the critical moment was so long ago, I can barely remember. I just want to show, there were mutual blunders earlier, but I just want to show where Fabiano could have at least prolonged the game and could have kept his chances alive in this match. And it was here, just 1 move before the 50 move rule kicked into effect and the game was declared drawn automatically. He could have forced that prolific endgame, that famous endgame. Rook takes g7 here, check. would have forced the black rook to recapture, and here we would have seen Magnus having to show his endgame technique. This is a draw with rook and bishop versus the sole black rook, but it would not have been easy. We would have seen 50 more moves of torture and decent chances for Fabiano. So he tried hard, in the end, not quite close enough.
So what a performance, even coming back in that game 3, a brilliant game by Fabi, but it is Magnus Carlsen who continues in the winner's bracket, and he will be playing against Alireza Firouzja in the winner's final. And this was our scoreline, with Magnus taking on Fabi and then winning with 2.5 to 1.5. Alireza Firouzja winning that final game against Wesley So and taking his match. And we're being joined by Magnus Carlsen after his win against Fabi. Magnus, congratulations, and what a match this was. Can you hear us, Magnus?
I really ran out of energy towards the end. The last two games were pretty dreadful, but I got the win, so something.
It was a great match, Magnus. In the first 2 games, you were making it look really easy, and we were super impressed. Convincing stuff. What happened in game 3?
Well, what I just said.
You ran out of energy?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he played a very good game. I think I was better from the opening, but that was kind of by design since he had to win. And then after that, he played a lot better than I did. And then the 4th game was bad as well, but it's okay. Yeah, as I said, you know, I just ran out of energy, and the games were poor, unfortunately.
Was there ever a moment that you thought that this would go into an Armageddon?
I didn't really care.
Didn't care.
And Magnus, there was an opportunity just before the 50 move rule kicked in for Fabiano to go into the infamous rook and bishop versus rook endgame. How confident would you have been of drawing that one?
Pretty confident.
Just checking.
Pretty confident.
And
But I did miss Vision Take G7. I only saw it after I made it.
all right, Magnus. We know it's been a long day and you are tired, but just one last question. You will be playing Alireza Firouzja in the winners final, and looking ahead at that match, give us your thoughts, how you're going to approach it.
I don't know. I'll probably have to play better than I did today. But it's going to be interesting to face him. I haven't faced him a lot in these matches over the last couple of years. In fact, I cannot remember. Yeah, I cannot remember even one match that we've played the last couple of years.
And Magnus, you famously said that if Alireza makes it to the World Championship, you were, you'd consider playing against him. So is it always fun for you to play? Is it a matchup that you look forward to?
Yeah, for sure. He's both very strong and an uncompromising player, so the games are always good.
We look forward to that one. Magnus, get some rest and all the best for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Magnus Carlsen saying that he could feel the fatigue and the lack of energy in those last 2 games. Fabiano Caruana coming super close to taking it to the Armageddon, and Magnus will be fighting against Firouzja in the winners final. And this was the matchup that we just saw. Fabiano Caruana has been knocked down to the elimination bracket. A pretty high accuracy rate there, David.
Yeah, for both players. Magnus, we're used to that from him. And Fabiano, I think maybe that accuracy was affected by the second game where he was already struggling out of the opening. But in general, very high quality match and close in the end. Just came down to a few moves that decided it.
He does look very tired though.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's been a long day of chess. There's been some great games going on, and it's exciting to commentate on, but it's tough. Yeah, I mean, you're calculating the whole time. You're trying to work stuff out. He's just come from the World Cup. where he won. So he's going to be tired.
Well, and the other winners bracket finalist is joining us, Alireza, after his win against Wesley. Alireza, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wrapping that up in that fourth game, 3 games that ended with a draw. What happened there? Because it felt like an abrupt end. What happened in game 4?
Yeah, I think Wesley lacked a bit energy at the end. He blundered, of course, with bishop a7. He blundered the 2 piece for a rook, so I had the advantage from early on, and then I had to find a few more accurate moves, and then I had a very good position. So I think he just lacked energy after all the 3 games, because it was very sharp, the 3 games, so makes sense.
Yeah, it was the first 3 games ended in a draw, but they were big fights and tough battles. And your opening of choice for today with the black pieces seemed to be the King's Indian defense. Is that an opening that you enjoy playing, Alireza?
Yeah, it's a good opening, I think, still, but nobody plays it anymore. But especially against Wesley, I think it's a good idea. For instance, I played him once in classical and he took on e5. He exchanged the queen against me, so I said in rapid for sure I have chance against him in King's Indian. So it's not his style so much, but of course it's not the best opening to play blacks.
That's very interesting that it was an opening approach more because of you playing against Wesley and you thinking that that would be a good opening choice against Wesley. And looking ahead, you're playing against Magnus in the winners final tomorrow. We had him on earlier and he's looking forward to that match. What about you? What are your thoughts on facing Magnus in a matchup after quite some time?
Honestly, I'm just happy that I will get more broadcast time because my parents are watching you guys and you guys never showed me. So now at least you will show me and they could watch me. So this is a good news at least.
Yeah. A big hello to your parents from our side, Alireza. Thank you, parents.
And Alireza, I'm curious, you decided not to play the World Cup. Can we ask why? And were you watching the event?
Yeah, for sure. I was watching the event. The reason I didn't play was just because I didn't see myself play 1 month everyday chess. So it was just too much for me to compete. So for me, going to one place and stay there for 1 month to play, it's a bit weird. So I decided just to skip that tournament because of this reason.
We missed you seeing at the World Cup, but we're so happy to have you back with us in the Champions Chess Tour. And Alireza, how important is it for you to try to get that spot into Toronto, and how motivated are you for that?
Yeah, I think it will be a great tournament in Toronto, so I will try my best. And so of course, it's a good motivation for me to qualify for it. So I will try my best. It's a thing that I like to qualify. So.
Yeah, we wish you all the best. It's always awesome to see you on the board, and good luck for tomorrow, Alireza.
Thank you.
Alireza Firouzja with a big win against world number 8 Wesley So, and he will be taking on Magnus Carlsen tomorrow, and a very high accuracy rate there as well for both players, slightly more for Alireza.
Yeah, wow, putting Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano to shame. 96 is incredibly high. And yeah, it kind of reflects what we said earlier in the day. Just really, really close match here. Neither player making significant mistakes in the end. It was Wesley who tired and allowed Alireza to pounce in that final game. But yeah, if he can keep this up, Alireza, he's got great chances against Magnus tomorrow.
We better make sure we show his game tomorrow as well. We've got a bit of a telling off there, so sorry about that. He does play very exciting chess as well, so we've got to show that match.
We will be showing that match as he takes on Magnus Carlsen in the winners final. We will also have a lot of big matchups before that in the losers bracket. Let's take a look at some of the other big high accuracy rates from today's matchups, as Nodibek Abdulsatrov knocked out Pavel Elyanov from the Julius Baer Generation Cup with a 96.6% accuracy of Cup.
Yeah, that is an impressive score. And of course, he was also really impressive as well, you know, the way that he just dispatched Pavel Elyanov, I mean, it just means that he's back in form, and yesterday was just an off day.
Yeah.
The other player who was super
No, I'm still
impressive,
streaming.
Denis Lazovic. He lost the first game to Armin Tabatabai, then wins the second one and goes on to win a thrilling Armageddon. And look at that accuracy by the 16-year-old at 92%. What a performance there today by him, Simon.
Yeah, very, very impressive, and looks like he could be leading Apple in that picture as well, you know. But yeah, I mean, he's just a really good player for his age, and just a really mature player.
We're going to have big fights all across tomorrow as we go into day 3 of the Julius Baer Generation Cup. Let's take a look at our brackets for the day's action that is coming up. Armin Tabatabai, Elyanov have been knocked out of the event. Wesley So knocked down by Alireza Firouzja will play against Denis Lazovic. A clash of generations there, and Fabiano Caruana knocked down by Magnus Carlsen takes on Nordebek Abdusatro. Later in the winners final, we will have to pick Magnus Carlsen against Alireza Firouzja. What are you most excited about for tomorrow?
I think it's going to be the big final, the winners' final between Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja. I mean, Alireza has played so dynamically, so in such a sharp, smart way. And I can't wait to see how Magnus will cope with that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, you can't really pick another match there, can you? It has to be that match. I mean, Magnus wanted that match for the World Championships. He's going to get it tomorrow. And they're both such exciting players when they play against each other. They play so many games online, and yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's the main course. But I'm also excited about the appetizers, and especially the clash between Caruana and Abdusattorov. It's a repeat of one of the finals we saw earlier in the season in the Chess-Kid Cup, and there Abdusattorov triumphed. So yeah, Fabiano, he played really, really well today. Abdusattorov, he's upped his game as well. It's going to be a tight clash.
Bit of a grudge match, that one for Fabiano Caruana, and as David says, big appetizers and then a big main course with Magnus Carlsen taking on Alireza Firouzja. I'm also very excited to reveal our winner of the trivia question that we had. Let's bring up our trivia question for the day. It was a tough one. Who is the youngest player to qualify for the candidates and when? Also a bit of a trick question. Let's reveal the answers first.
Bobby Fischer.
That's correct.
Well, I went 1968.
And you also have Bobby Fischer?
Bobby Fischer,
Yeah.
I've not 1963.
Yeah, three.
Okay, both of you are wrong. It was in 1958. He was only 15 years old.
Oh, right. Oh, bloody hell. I meant 58. That's actually 5. If you look very closely, that says 5.
And there is our today's winner. Huge congratulations to Isa Plonganaka. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, but we all congratulate you here from the studio. And the answer is Bobby Fischer in the 1958 qualification to the candidate. It was a trick question because Magnus Carlsen also did qualify in 2007. He was younger than Bobby Fischer, but he never ended up playing the candidates then. Then he will be back tomorrow for a match against